All right, I'm going to talk to you about the correct way to do a default without agreement, no kids, no alimony or property. I always talk about not doing a default without an agreement. There's one instance from scratch that you can do it and you will get it through. And here's the criteria that you need to have to make this simple. Otherwise, in every other case, in my opinion, you need to do a default with written agreement. And here's the stats. I kind of gave it up already. No kids. Don't do a default without an agreement with kids. Is it possible to get through? Yes, but it's going to be very challenging. They're going to want to know why. The court's going to want to know why. The other party's not participating when there's children involved. There's going to be a hearing set by the judge to see what's going on. No alimony. You can't. It's very difficult to get alimony in a default without an agreement case when the other party's not involved and not supplying their income on an income and expense declaration. If you try and get spouse support / alimony in a default case, there's going to be a hearing. Or property division. So yes, can you get a default through without an agreement with property? Yes, but you do not get to decide how that's divided up. It has to be divided up equally, almost to the penny, and you have to show the court the values and all that. So that can be very difficult. Or yes, can we get it through? Yes. But you're not going to get to say, hey, I want to keep my 100% of my 401k, or he's going to keep this, or she's going to keep that. You no longer get to agree. You have to do it in such a way that it reflects to the court that everything was divided 100% equally. So, and the other thing, short-term marriage, less than 10 years. If you try and do a default without an agreement and you want to terminate spouse support on a long-term marriage, you can't do it. You can ask for a hearing and to ask for it, and then you're going to go to a hearing and try and explain to the judge why they should allow there to be no spouse support on a long-term marriage when that's the general rule. So the correct way to do it, if you want to do it, I always treat it as a last resort. It all depends on how you file the initial paperwork. It gets very specific. There hasn't been one single case where parties said, hey, Tim, he's just not going to be involved. He's not going to do anything. We're going to have to serve him. He's not going the easy way. Every time we've had cases where it's already been filed, we have to amend it because there's a specific way you have to do it. It's very tricky. And I mean, and when I say specific way to do it is how to file it. It's very, very specific. Everything goes in the petition that you want to request in the default judgment, and no changes can be made. So if you do have kids, and you do have property, and all that, you have to list on the petition and the accompanying property declarations, all the assets, how they're being divided equally, or it'll be rejected. They'll just reject. They'll stamp your petition, but then when you turn your judgment, they'll say judgment rejected, property not being divided equally. Your custody, whatever custody you put in, if you just put joint legal and physical, that's all you can put in the judgment. It's not a settlement agreement; it's a judgment when the party's not participating. So you can't make any changes if you mess up the petition, or if you put in custody orders or custody requests in the petition. They have to match exactly. You can't change anything after that. I don't like them. I do very few of them. In fact, if people tell me up front, it's going to be a default without an agreement. I review their case first before I take a dime from them to see what the potential of it actually going through will be. But again, 99% of them, I will talk them into having their spouse participate, because in most cases, they're doing this thinking it's easier, when in fact, a default without an agreement is much more difficult than a default with agreement.